Hello everybody, have a brand new knife for you today. This one comes from a brand I have never heard of before, but I happened to be browsing on Knifeworks website and I saw this particular knife pop up and it kind of caught my eye. Not only for the design, but I took a look at the price and decided, hey, let's pick this one up. So this one right here comes from a brand called Lord & Field. And so Lord & Field, it sounds like a classic name, but it also sounds like one of those types of classic names that might have been co-opted by a Chinese brand. And I think that's the case here. But not all is bad about that. So let's take a look. Before we see the knife, I'm actually kind of impressed with the packaging, because if you've ever bought a traditional knife before, tubes like this probably look very familiar to you. You know, especially Great Eastern Cutlery. They send their knives out in these tubes, you know, nice little wax paper lining in there, and they're great for collector's value with these nice little labels. So if you're a collector of traditionals, having a bunch of these tubes stacked around is not going to be a new sight on your shelf. But this particular brand, they were going for the same motif, the same theme. So take a look at the tube this one came with, the Lord & Field Outfitters, the Dungaree knife. So this is called the Dungaree. And I can get a guess as to why it's called that, because this particular knife does have the denim micarta scales. But that being said, the tube itself, just like any other traditional knife, comes with the wax paper inside. Very impressive. So that's a nice, definite first impression when I picked this knife out of the box. And so I'm glad Knifeworks was offering this, because I actually really do like this design here. So there are some ups and some downs to it, but let's take a look at the knife overall. We have the very nice denim micarta scales. And again, they had me at denim micarta. I love micarta in general, but the denim micarta with the blue color, sometimes you get some really nice colors popping out of there. And this particular one is a really nice light blue color. And so I know jeans and denim in general can be called dungarees, and that's probably where they got the name of the knife from. I always think of the old Lee commercials, you know, the Lee dungarees, can't bust them. So that's kind of where I think the name of the knife came from. But what we have here is a classic design. You know, it looks very much like a trapper style knife or a sodbuster style knife. The blade itself is, you know, kind of a spay blade with a nail nick opener on it, but it is a modern liner lock, which is kind of cool. And so again, if you're a fan of traditional style blades, this might float your boat. So it's not a slip joint knife like most knives of this style are. They were kind of going with the modern design with the classic style, which I do like. So the blade itself, the really downside to this knife would probably be the blade steel, because being an inexpensive Chinese knife, there's really no named blade steel this is made out of. They simply call it stainless steel. So it's probably a 440, a 420, something relatively inexpensive that's not going to wear very well. But that being said, you know, the classic style of it, I do like. I do like that the fact that on the blade there's not a lot of markings. It simply says Lord & Field down at the bottom. The rear side is completely blank, has a satin finish. It does pick up fingerprints very easily, so you might want to wipe it down often if you're going to have it on display. But that being said, all of the Torx bits, whenever I get a cheap knife, I test out the Torx bits. You know, I didn't take it apart, but none of the screws are stripped out of the box, which is always a good sign of manufacture. So I always test that, even though I don't take it apart. If the knife was excessively gritty or had an issue, I might have taken it apart, but this particular one is totally fine. Being that it is a liner lock, even with the nail nick, you can still open it very easily, one-handed. You can close it, you know, one-handed very easily as well. This knife has nylon washers, Teflon washers, whatever you want to call them, those little white plastic washers in there, and it's pretty smooth to open and close. There's no grit in there that I can tell. You can check out the centering, which is pretty good. No reason for it to be out of center. So an easy way to open it a little bit, you can give it a good flick, it'll open up. You can open it slowly, so it's variable in how you want to open this knife. You can see the liner lock has very early lockup, almost scary early lockup, you know, but there is no play in the blade. It's very solid. The blade is very sharp. You know, when it came straight out of the box, I did strop it up, and it was doing a really good job cutting things. So haven't touched it up or anything yet, but Very classic design here. There is no pocket clip, of course, as you can tell, because it is a classic design. I might kind of like a pocket clip on this knife. But let's take a look at some comparisons here. And one thing I wanted to compare. This knife, of course, is the furthest thing from a classic design. This is the QSP Penguin, and this also has denim micarta scales. So let's compare these two scale colors, shall we? So take a look. And of course, with micarta, it really just depends on what batch of material you're using to make it. So with the Dungaree having a very light blue color and the QSP Penguin having a very dark denim micarta. So I like them both. Both are equally tractioned. That being said, they're fairly smooth. But I did want to give a comparison because not all denim micarta is made equally. And so this is going to be up to personal preference, really, between the two. But holding these two together, I kind of wish that the Dungaree had a pocket clip. I think that would really fit in nicely there. But being a traditional, I could see why they didn't go that route. But also, what else can we compare it to? I do have a couple of Sodbuster style knives. These are from Bear & Sons. And now these are blue, so I threw them on the table, but they are not micarta. These are blue G10. Very polished blue G10. So we have a small and large size Sodbuster there. And I forget what exactly Bear & Son calls them, if they call them Sodbusters or some other variant of knife. But it's the same pattern, essentially. And I don't really have any direct trappers or spay blades to make a comparison with the Dungaree. But I really like having it in the collection, actually. You know, I think it does fill a nice little spot that way. Very simple, small knife. Throw it in a nice little leather slip to carry in your pocket, and I think it's going to do you just fine. So there is another design that Lord & Field has on Knifeworks site. It's kind of like a hawkbill, one of those, I forget what the name of the blade is. I'll throw it up on screen. One of those, almost like a mushroom knife shape, where gosh, I forget what the blade shape is called, but I'll throw it up and you can see it. But it looks like the Lord & Field brand is going for the old style of knives, whether it's fixed blades or old traditional style knives. But they're definitely modern knives. They're definitely made in China. They're definitely budget knives. It'd be nice to see over time them improve materials, because again, I don't see anything wrong with this knife at all. For such a small, simple knife, there wasn't a whole lot they could do to mess it up, and they did a pretty good job. That liner lock is nice and protruding, gives you easy action, easy access to the lock. The knife is easy to open one-handed, which is something traditional knives generally don't do. So really glad to be able to show this off to everybody. If you have any questions about it, feel free to leave a comment below. If you have any experience with Lord & Field, I'd be curious to hear it. But I do love the tube. I almost want to call it like cute, you know, because it's kind of like cool that they're going with the theme of the, you know, the tubes for a traditional knife, but not a sticker. It's just printed on that paper, which is still cool. I like the tube. So good on them. If it wasn't for the tube, I probably wouldn't have made a video. So I'm glad they made this thing. But again, any questions, guys, leave me a comment below. Have a great day. Bye-bye.